Hey, do you know what can be more dangerous than a protest? A joke. Do you know what can change more than a bomb? A film. And in the Middle East, cinema and laughter are now a battlefield. One wrong joke can cost a creator their freedom. One honest film can be banned in 10 countries, and you are about to hear that story. Because in the Arab world, laughter is a weapon. And like any weapon, it's dangerous. One politically incorrect joke can send you to prison. One film can get you banned from returning to your own country. Because before you laugh, you have to ask yourself, what are you allowed to laugh at? What is off limits? And who decides? Welcome to the world of Arab comedy and Arab cinema. Here, laughter doesn't start with a punchline. It starts with fear. Egypt, where once Adel Imam was bigger than the president. Today, a joke about the army means the end of your career. Saudi Arabia, where sitcoms make people laugh, but never ask why you're not allowed to ask. Tunisia, where after the Arab Spring the cameras started speaking with a new voice. Lebanon, where cinema walks a tightrope between trauma and commercial appeal. Palestine, where every frame is a political statement. And TikTok? YouTube? That's where the real Arab cinema is being made today. No budget, no permission, no censor sitting in the editing room. Because when you're not allowed to speak, what you have left is laughter. And that laughter can hurt more than a scream. And when an Arab film reaches the West, that's where a different game begins. Is it still an auteur film? Or already national branding? Is it a film for its own people? Or for European festivals? And today we're going to tell you that story. A story of laughter as resistance. Of film as a weapon. A story that doesn't unfold in Cannes, but in kitchens in Cairo. On TikTok, in private WhatsApp chats. Because Arab cinema today doesn't want to be pretty, it doesn't want to be safe. It wants to be true. And it pays the highest price for that. We begin. Imagine this. You see a movie poster from Saudi Arabia. A smiling woman. A confused man. White thobe, black abaya, pastel colors. The title suggests a rom-com. But is it really a comedy? Because in the Arab world, comedy doesn't start with a joke. It starts with a question. What are you allowed to laugh at? Comedy is a powerful tool. It can relieve tension, it can strip power naked, it can bring people together, or humiliate them. And that is exactly why comedy in Arab countries is usually tightly controlled. Let's start with Egypt, the capital of Arab cinema and television. Comedy has deep roots here. Since the days of Adel Imam, a legend of the Egyptian screen, comedians have been bigger stars than politicians. Imam played everything. A teacher, a devout Muslim, an atheist, a lover, a tramp, a spy. Always with that glint in his eye, always with a sharp line on his tongue. But in the 21st century, something changed. Today, Egyptian comedy is cautious. It jokes about everyday life but avoids political, religious, gender, or deep social issues. What are you allowed to laugh at? The mother-in-law, Cairo traffic, lazy bureaucrats, the hypocritical husband, the flashy new rich. What is off limits? The army, the clergy, homosexuality, structural poverty, women fighting for their rights. Comedy has become a kind of service humor. You joke, you laugh, but with an offense. And what about satire? That's where Bassem Youssef comes in. The Arab Jon Stewart, a former surgeon who created Al Bernameg, the first true satirical late-night show in the Arab world. It was brilliant, funny, sharp, smart. It parodied politicians, clerics, news anchors. For a brief moment, it was the voice of freedom after the revolution. And then, the channel shut it down, sponsors fled, and Youssef had to flee Egypt. For a joke, he paid a very real price. In Saudi Arabia, comedy is being reborn alongside Mohammed bin Salman's reforms. Sitcoms, light dramas, family comedies are appearing, but everything follows the script of new conservatism. A woman can be funny, but only as a sister or mother. A man can be goofy but never dangerous. Politicians? Taboo. Imams? Absolutely untouchable. Sometimes they joke about the old generation, but never about the system. Laughter here is like cardamom tea. Hot, but it does not burn. In the UAE, comedy is often product placement in a white dish dasha. Half joke, half commercial. Always with a message. Look how modern our society is and how we can laugh at ourselves without crossing any lines. Shows like Frege, about four older women in Dubai, are charming, sometimes satirical, but ultimately they support the state narrative. They don't laugh at the state, they laugh for the state. But the real comedy revolution is happening on YouTube and TikTok. Young Arabs are creating their own humor, meme-based, ironic, self-deprecating, soaked in bitterness. Channels like Wasabi Comedy, Shayno, Arab creators on FauciTube, or independent TikTokers from Egypt, Saudi, Syria, all produce skits that go viral. Popular topics? What a date looks like when you're not allowed to have one. Arab wedding, 11 hours of torture with a smile. A conversation with a father who has no idea you have a boyfriend. A prayer interrupted by a call from your ex. These skits are funny because they're real. And that's exactly why they're dangerous. They show what state-approved comedies never will. Youth frustration, family pressure, systemic hypocrisy, depression buried under jokes. In Morocco, Tunisia, Lebanon, stand-up is on the rise. Young comedians perform in clubs, on YouTube, in basements. They speak half under their breath. They self-censor. But they joke about the real stuff. In Tunisia, the taboo of a woman who does not want to marry. In Morocco, religion and alcohol. In Lebanon, sex and politics. Everything at once. Some stand-ups are banned from performing. Others vanish from platforms. But as long as people keep laughing, they keep going. And that's the key point. Comedy in the Arab world did not die. It just moved. Not to television, not to cinema, but to the internet, to hair salons, to WhatsApp groups, to circles of friends. When shouting isn't allowed, people laugh, and laughter is the last form of freedom. And what about abroad? When an Arab film travels abroad, it doesn't just cross a geographical border. It crosses borders of identity, language, and sensitivity. But to understand that, we first have to ask, what does exporting Arab cinema really mean? Because it's not just moving a film reel from Beirut to Berlin. It's exporting narratives, and narratives are always political. Case 1. Tunisia. After the Arab Spring, Tunisia became a laboratory of free speech in the region, and quickly started exporting films nobody wanted to see before, because they were too raw, too female, too political. Films like The Man Who Sold His Skin, Kauther Ben Hania, Beauty and the Dogs, Four Daughters, As I Open My Eyes, became festival hits, from Berlin to Toronto. What do they have in common? They don't show Tunisia as a beach resort. They show it as a country of social conflicts. They don't offer Oriental magic. They offer real rebellion. They don't soothe the viewer. They shake them. And still, or precisely because of that, they're invited to festivals, bought by European TV, funded by co-production grants. Case 2, Lebanon. Here, directors have something unique, wild honesty, and a Western cinematic language. Nadine Labaki's Capernaum, Oscar-nominated, a portrait of childhood ripped apart by Beirut's chaos, moved the world. 1982. A school drama that used silence to tell war better than 1,000 documentaries. Memory Box, premiered in Berlin, telling a story of female identity through diaries and VHS tapes. But there's a question, is Lebanon exporting itself, or just its trauma? Case 3, Palestine. Palestinian cinema is the cinema of occupation. You cannot separate the two. Every film is a political statement, but each one is also a cry for the right to tell your own story. Hani Abu Assad's Omar and Paradise Now show that even a would-be bomber is still a human being. Elia Suleiman's It Must Be Heaven, an absurd silent comedy loaded with meaning. These are not films about Palestine. They are Palestine speaking about itself. But to reach the West, they often have to be made even more political. Because in Europe, we love to help victims. But we don't always understand that a film can also be anger, not just tears. Case 4, Saudi Arabia. Here, export looks different. The state spends millions to showcase a new face of the kingdom, but it's a controlled export. Wajda, the first Saudi feature directed by a woman. The Perfect Candidate, also by Haifa al-Mansour. The Book of Sun, a comedy about youth and YouTube. These films reach the West because they say, look, we're changing, but we're doing it our way. And it works. But it also raises the question, is this still auteur cinema, or already national marketing? Most Arab films exported to the West are co-productions with France, Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, Scandinavia. They're funded by European grants. They have Western co-producers and advisors. Sometimes the script is workshopped with a consultant in Berlin. And then the question comes, is this still Arab cinema? Or cinema about Arabs for Western audiences? Even so, exporting Arab films is a huge opportunity for truth, for contact, for exchange, for showing that the Arab world is not just conflict and Islam. The road is hard, most films never break through, but each selected at Cannes is a crack in the wall of ignorance. And how does it work the other way? What do Arabs watch from Hollywood? Almost everything, just not in the version you're used to. Hollywood is the world's most powerful cultural exporter. But when its films reach Arab countries, they go through surgery. Sometimes that surgery ends in amputating half the film's soul. Stage 1. Institutional censorship. In Saudi Arabia, the General Commission for Audiovisual Media. In Egypt, the Supreme Media Council and the Cinema Committee. In the UAE, the National Media Council. In Kuwait, the Ministry of Information. Every film is scanned frame by frame. The cut list. Open-mouth kisses. Yes, really. Relationships outside marriage. Women in underwear. Any LGBT content. Criticism of religion. Blasphemy and profanities. Drugs and alcohol presented as normal. Israel treated as normal. Stage 2. Producer-side localization. Studios now routinely create Gulf cut versions, special edits for the Gulf market, with different trailers, sometimes different music, altered shots. Examples? Doctor Strange 2, banned over a lesbian character. West Side Story, blocked in some Gulf states due to a trans actor. Black Panther 2, subtle gestures between two women removed. What do people do? VPNs. Pirate sites, full versions on YouTube. USB sticks from malls labeled Original Full. Especially young viewers reject the censored cut. They want full Marvel, full Netflix, the full world. But parents and religious groups still demand a clean screen. Some films are blocked not for sex, but for politics. The 2022 Death on the Nile, banned in Kuwait because of Gal Gadot, a former Israeli soldier. The Post, blocked because Spielberg helped Israel. The Lady of Heaven, banned in Iran, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, for its Shia-centered take on Islamic history. The Middle Eastern film market is slowly splitting. Hardline countries, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iran, cut, ban, don't negotiate. Flexible countries, Lebanon, Tunisia, Morocco, allow more, sometimes the full cut. Dual-track states, Egypt, UAE, show the censored version, but people watch the full version anyway. Hollywood isn't just movies, it's a language, freedom, choice, diversity, rebellion, sex, technology, and all that clashes with a conservative vision of society. That's why importing Hollywood is a cultural war, a generational clash, and a minefield for governments. Because one film with a kiss can do more than 100 sermons. In the Middle East, you don't need a $100,000 camera to make cinema. You don't need a ministry permit. You don't need to know the director of state TV. You just need a phone, a TikTok account, and the courage to post something no satellite channel will ever broadcast. Because the new Arab cinema is not born in studios. It's born in kitchens, on rooftops, in cars, in bedrooms, hidden from family. It's cinema made by ordinary people. And that's exactly why it's so real. Cinema of real people. Let's start with TikTok, the digital beast that eats television for breakfast. In Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Morocco, Millions watch short-form videos every day. Mini-series shot in one room, little family sketches, parodies of conservative rules, dramas about women living under pressure. Some hit millions of views in days. Why? Because they're short, emotional, raw, honest, and smash a taboo in a few seconds. Example? In Saudi Arabia, the before marriage trend shows what is and isn't allowed before the wedding. Young women act out scenes. One wants to wear a dress. The family says no. Another wants to work. Her brother says no. A third says, I don't want to marry. And the drama explodes, music swells, tears, zoom in. These aren't just jokes. They're confessions, and nobody censors them fast enough. Sometimes the algorithm even boosts controversy. But it's not just TikTok. YouTube is now the alternative TV of the Arab world. In Egypt, satirical channels with millions of subscribers cover politics, society, and absurd life. In Lebanon, vloggers document systemic collapse, daily blackouts, life among ruins. In Saudi Arabia, borderline comedy sketches mock religion, patriarchy, elite hypocrisy, not directly, but clearly enough for viewers to get the message. And the state sometimes bans, sometimes ignores, sometimes recruits the most popular creators for official campaigns. If you can't beat them, pay them. The special power of TikTok and YouTube in the Arab world is that you don't need permission. You don't need connections. You don't need film school. And that changes everything. A woman who would never be allowed onto state TV appears on TikTok, without hijab, with makeup, with a message. A man officially banned from publishing sits in a basement and builds a YouTube channel with thousands of subscribers. Young people who feel cinema and TV are lying create their own narratives about love, loneliness, poverty, depression, migration, identity. But this isn't absolute freedom either. Algorithms have their own red lines. States are learning digital control. In Saudi Arabia, creators critical of religion lose their accounts. In Egypt, female TikTokers dancing are arrested for immorality. In Iran, where TikTok access is restricted, creators upload via proxy, risking everything. In Palestine, many influencers see their reach drop when they talk too bluntly about occupation. And self-censorship appears again, not the studio kind, but the inner voice of a creator afraid of losing their account. Because today your account is your life. Even with this new censorship, the revolution continues. Because TikTok and YouTube are doing something neither Hollywood nor Al Jazeera, nor the president on the big screen ever did. They give a voice to the voiceless. They turn viewers into directors. They allow people to speak directly, even if only for 60 seconds. And yes, the cinema can be cheesy, chaotic, badly shot. But that's where the real heartbeat of the Arab world is. Not on the red carpet, not in Cannes, but in a kitchen in Cairo, on a rooftop in Ramallah, in an elevator in Beirut, where there is no budget. But there is truth. So when does a film frame become resistance? Some films make you laugh. Some make you cry, some exist only to avoid trouble. But sometimes, 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000, a film appears that doesn't just cross the line, it blows it up from the inside. A film that doesn't want to be liked, doesn't want to obey, doesn't want to be an Arab version of Hollywood. It just wants to tell the truth. And at that moment, it becomes resistance. Let's see how this resistance looked over the years in different parts of the Middle East. Syrian-American director Mustafa Akkad makes The Message, a monumental film about the birth of Islam. He consults clerics, respects doctrine. The prophet's face is never shown. All rules are followed. And still, the film is banned in most Arab countries. The director gets threats. Some groups want to physically destroy the reels. Why? Because it wasn't about form. It was about someone daring to tell the story of Islam in a way the system had not pre-approved. Paradise Now, the story of 2 young Palestinians preparing for a suicide attack, hits festivals, theaters, the Oscars, and fire breaks out. In Israel, protests. In Palestine, divisions. Across the Arab world, whispered debates. Is this a film about terrorists or about desperate men? In the US, labeled glorification of violence. In reality, it was a film about how people in extreme situations are not propaganda characters. They're full of contradictions, too true for everyone. The Tunisian documentary Laïcité Inshallah, about secularism, unveiled women, and Islam as oppression, is banned. Its director, Nadia El Fani, is charged with blasphemy. Potential sentence, life in prison. She escapes to France. Her crime? Asking whether faith can be a private matter. Nadine Labaki releases Capernaum, a film about children in Beirut, homeless and forgotten. The film becomes an Oscar hit. But in Lebanon, politicians ignore its message. Social services don't move. The system stays the system. Cinema can be resistance, but not every truth becomes policy. Sometimes it only changes us. In the end, we can say this: there are films that entertain. There are films that move us. There are films that win Oscars. And there are films you will never see in a cinema. Because cinema is not just light on a screen, it's a battlefield. In the Arab world, every joke is a choice. Every frame is an act of courage. And when you see a young woman on TikTok laughing at conservatism, remember, she may be paying more for that video than just with likes. When you see a YouTube sketch mocking the absurdity of the system, remember, its creator is risking more than just losing views. Because today, laughter is the last safe weapon, and cinema is the mirror the state fears the most. But that mirror is cracking. More and more films tell the truth. More and more voices slip past the censors. And even though authorities ban, block, intimidate, the new cinema keeps growing. Not on red carpets, not in government studios, but in smartphones, basements, rooftops, rooms where making a film is an act of defiance. And you, next time you watch an Arab film, don't just ask if it was good. Ask what journey it had to make to reach you. Because sometimes 1 minute of authentic truth is worth more than 1,000 Oscars. If this episode made you think, if it showed you what the real struggle for freedom looks like on screen, if you want more stories like this, hit subscribe. Tap the bell. Because on this channel we talk about things you often won't hear in the mainstream. Give it a like. It helps us reach further. Write in the comments what aspect of the Arab world, the Middle East, its culture and societies you want to hear about next. Because what you're seeing now is just the beginning. The most fascinating stories are always where people are not allowed to speak in a full voice. See you in the next episode. And remember, sometimes laughter is the most powerful scream.